Look Alive 2025. Here we are. The Warhammer Meta Chasers is your show for the weekly rundown of the biggest and best tournaments coming up all around the globe. Normally, we'll look a little forward. This time, we're going to be looking a little back, looking at the recaps from this previous year. Yesterday's news is going to be today's excitement. My name is Paul, your host, joined by Adam Camilleri.
Good day, everyone.
And Dustin Henshaw.
Hello.
Welcome, everybody, in the chat. Like I mentioned, we do this live. Already got some folks in here. Nurgle Matt, Dorian A. Steve, Brad-tastic Craft. Welcome. Hope you all doing well. And let us know if anybody else is hanging out. If your new year is starting as amazing as ours, welcome to the show. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing a little bit of a cast back, looking to the events, the biggest events, over 200 players in some of these events. It's over 500 players, I think, in some of these events as well.
So just bringing you guys up to speed, I did have plans to cover the two larger events this weekend. There's a 100-player and like an 80-player event this weekend, but none of them unlocked their lists in time. So we had to do a pivot, and I had to do some other stuff. So forgive me if the formatting on the PowerPoint is not our usual polish, because I literally did this in the 20 minutes before we started, and we did.
And in our short break, you forgot how we do things around here, and said, you know what, I need to do this right. So we all just kind of sat around.
Yeah, talked about USB ports. Yeah, it was a good time. What we did for Christmas. But
you
so
know what,
on
if
this show,
we would have bought you one, Adam. That actually would have saved you some time, I think.
Yeah.
Christmas present.
So on this show, I have gone back and looked through the notes for every single show that we have ever done for the year of 2024. And I've tried to pull out the biggest event from every month, focusing in on events that are around 200 players or a little bit less or a little bit or much more. And for each one of those events, I've pulled out the how many players, how many rounds, the faction breakdown, so the top 3 or top 5 factions, in addition to the top 10 post-event, so what was in the top 10 when it was all said and done, in addition to the top 3 podium. So you can enjoy that look back at the unfolding of the last 12 months of the Warhammer Meta Chasers, and in fact, the meta itself.
And this is a little bit about what we do on our Patreon show. Like if you're a tier 2 or above subscriber on Patreon, by the way, every tier is awesome. But if you're a subscriber on the Patreon, we actually do a look back from week to week and figure out what won. We talk about the top 10, some notable list and standout list. And then we also give each other no end of the business for being either right or too wrong or too right in our predictions each and every week. So something to check out, a little bit of taste of that as well. You want to jump into it?
Adam is typing right now.
Without further ado,
you got to finish the other. You got to finish the other slides.
I was fixing something right.
And I do agree. Like if you're going to the tournaments, don't tell your tournament organizers anything. They have enough to worry about. But let them know we want to talk about their events. And one of the ways to get us talking about their events is to have the list unlocked, or at least maybe sending us some information before the weekend. Plug us into that.
If it's, of course, should a TO decide to do that, we don't tell them to send us lists because we don't want to bust anyone's list ahead of time, especially seeing as we focus on top players who are contending against other top players. But yeah, if at all possible, send us a faction breakdown. We'd love to cover you, especially if you're like riding close to a release deadline. XYZ codex might be coming, and you have to leave them time to get an FAQ out or something like that. So yeah, always an option as well. Looking into 2025.
Looking at that, we're going to be jumping into the events here. The Las Vegas Open 2024. We're right on the precipice of it for 2025. And let's just look at the meta as it was then, and then let's see if we can make some predictions.
Yeah, almost exactly 12 months ago. What did the game look like?
Dustin, you want to let us know what that breakdown was?
Sure, I'll just read what's on the screen here. The faction podium was Necrons at 84, Chaos Space Marines at 77, Eldari at 67, Astartes at 66, and World Eaters at 52. The top 10 ended up being 3 Eldari, 2 Necrons, 1 CSM, 1 NID, 1 Votann, 1 Astra Militarum, and 1 Astartes, which was Black Templar. And the podium being Necrons winning it, Eldari in second, and Tyranids in third.
Like when you leave a monolith-sized hole in your deployment zone, sometimes bad stuff happens.
I've heard.
You might just lose an LVO.
You might lose an LVO.
Ooh.
Like obviously, we're looking at that. We're not really memeing on that. They were playing a hard-fought game.
Yeah,
That was one of the cool things that happened in that game.
They were 10 rounds deep. These things happen. 10 rounds in. That is possibly 30 hours of 40K under your belt in 3 days. That is a hellacious effort in every stretch of the every sense of the word. But a theme is already begun. Faction podiums, Necrons on top. Do not expect that to change very often. We may give out some awards at the end of this, which I literally just thought of then, because we should give out awards, boys, one each. And my one's going to be, I'm going to give out the award for the most factions on the faction podium. So that's going to be Adams, Ring-a-Ding. This one was the most.
Which event?
This was the event that had the most spread, had the best spread of 2024. So I'll give out that one. You guys can decide what your meme.
I'll do least likely number one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Ooh.
Yep. All right. Nice.
I got nothing.
Dustin?
Look at me right now, man.
You make it up on the fly, baby. You're professionals here.
Yeah, it's like that's the one. That's the one.
I'm
the winner.
I'm gonna go to chat because we got a lot of guys in chat here. You guys let us know what you want my award to be, and I will pick out that award.
Nice. But quite a good faction breakdown for such a big event. Still getting decent. Well, after you get under Necrons, it's actually not too bad. It was only 7 in difference from Necrons to Chaos Space Marines, but then it was 10 from Chaos Space Marines down to Eldari. But then past Eldari and Eldari down, it was really quite close. If I remember correctly, and this is 12 months ago, there was essentially a bunch of 50s and high 40s for a vast majority of upper tier factions.
Will the Grotmist detachment reign supreme? Our Necron's going to be still all over the place.
Yeah. Well, so and also picturing back 12 months ago, this was just after Canoptic Court had taken its second round of nerfs, or possibly its first significant round of nerfs, and Hypercrypt was just starting to come in as like the possible best way to play Necrons, which is what won LVO that year.
Let's go to the next event if y'all are ready for that. This is the Oxford Super Major in Oxford, England, happening in April. So a couple months passed.
Yeah, a bit of a lull. I tried real hard to look for one between these two, and then I was just like,
well, so the LVO is that's the end of the ITC season, and things start to ramp up again. As we're starting to get into these more signature events, more regional signature events.
Yes, indeed. And so there is always a bit of a down period between. There was still plenty of events. Actually, surprisingly, a lot of huge team events, but I did not quite know how to factor in team events. So we kept this to just singles events, the biggest singles events in the world.
Adepticon's around this time period also, but the big draw of Adepticon is the four-player team event. What do we see there?
For this one, there was on the faction podium, Necrons at 23 again, so there was no real change there. Custodes at 20. Eldari and Astartes tied at 17. World Eaters, Death Guard, Astra Militarum at 14, and Tau at 13. So the Custodes and Tau and Death Guard all making an appearance on this one then, after the LVO was mostly just Necrons, Eldari, Astartes, World Eaters, and Astra Militarum. So the meta was the same, but different. Like the same, a couple of factions kind of like we're good too, or we're at least represented too. But the top
when did
10,
Adeptus Sororitas come out?
That's actually a good question. Well, Sisters did win this event. It was after this event because this is what did it. That's what it was. This is what. Sisters are good. Oh man, let's play. The top 10 was 2 Astra Militarum, 2 Sisters, 1 Tau, 1 Votan, 1 Custode, 1 Tyranid, 1 Necro, 1 CSM, which does look very similar to the LVO, but the podium being first Sisters, this is the one that kickstarted. I'm pretty sure that it makes sense to me anyway. And then Astra Militarum, second and third.
Yeah, not a huge surprise here. Yeah, Sisters just making it into the 4, and then Guard has pretty much been like a top 5 faction, if not a top 3 faction, for the majority of the edition. But it's just been when they have been meted out by other things. And of course, I was of the opinion that like on release, Sisters of Battle was just like an absolute predator for Guard when it first came out, just because of how much value they had.
Almost melt all the movements.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. They had all the tools to kill, annihilate, destroy Guard at every level. So you've got little guns for the little guys, you got big guns for the big guys, and it was just like a perfect storm. But still, 2 managed to make the podium here, so pretty impressive.
I feel like Astra Militarum also was a little bit of a sleeper for first 6 months of the
Yeah.
year. So I thought I look at this as like a surprise
Yeah.
for a
Well, they
lot of
took it.
players when this happened.
They went up a bunch in points, of course, in the first kind of 6 to 12 months of 10th edition. Then they started coming down a little bit on different stuff like Hellhounds, some of the Lehman Russ, like the Exterminator as well, like and the Battle Cannon Lehman Russes, and then they started to get really activated and powerful.
Nice.
But what to be next?
The next one is going to be the German Supermajor. This was in Braunschweig, Germany in May of 2024 for 442 players over 5 rounds. So that's interesting. You may never
Yeah.
cross paths with some
Yeah.
lists. So you have, well, what that really means is you have to make the most of every single game. One drop point could be the difference between, feast and famine at events like this, which, that's intense. I don't mind it.
Indeed. And unfortunately, this was hosted on another pairings platform, of which I was unable to track down what actually won this one, and did not have the time to look back. But we do have the faction podium.
We do the faction podium, which was Necrons at 42.
Surprise.
Orcs at 40, Tyranids at 25, Death Guard at 24, and World Leaders at 23. Interesting that Tyranids and World Leaders are actually on all these podiums.
Correct. Yeah. World Eaters are very well represented the world over here, because we've already seen a couple of events in the UK. We've seen one in the Americas so far as well. And World Eaters, showing up everywhere. But yeah, Necron's holding strong. I was trying to remember what was going on in the meta at the time that Orcs popped up here. Was this Bully Boys, do we think? Was this Bully Boys getting their little shine, their little 2 months where they were just like everywhere?
Yeah, in May, I think that actually makes sense. The timing makes sense to me.
We can look this up.
Can we?
We could
do this, but we just know. We don't need to look it up, right?
It's right. We chased this meta.
We chased the meta. We know this.
Well, I think the Codex release dates do happen to, kind of give us some insight into maybe what some of the hottest stuff is. And I don't mean that they're super powerful and have to be done with a curtail or whatever, but there's always that little bit of a lift in what people expect from them. Some people crack the code sooner than others, and so it does have some a ripple at the very least.
Well, yeah. So Orcs came out in April of 2024. So that's a great key there, Paul. I just went and quickly looked that up. Yeah, so Orcs came out in April of that year. So then April, of course, we're into May. Bada bing, bada boom. Orcs are fully fledged in force, and here we are. Called it. We called it.
Yeah, loving that.
Chased it.
Lone Star Open is the next one from Dallas, Texas. 234 players, a 6-round event. We know that Texas has a lot of competitive players, a lot of guard players, a lot of Astronaut players there. How'd that shake out in what we saw there?
Orcs topping it off with 17. Chaos Space Marines with 16. Chaos Knights at Astra Militarum at 15. There you go. Tyranids, Necrons, World Eaters again 13, and Tau at 12. The top 10 being 2 Orcs, 2 Nids, 1 CSM, 1 Eldari, 1 Demon, 1 Sisters, 1 Astra Militarum, and 1 Death Guard. The actual podium being CSM winning it, Orcs in second, and Tyranids in third.
Well, so this is July, right? This event happened in July, and Codex Chaos Space Marines came out in May. So, they've got all of June to brew, and this would have been the most powerful point of them before they got their first round of nerfs. Possibly full power, cheapest chips, Warp Talons, and just like Renegade Raiders being extremely potent.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And that was enough to topple the Orcs, to take the Orcs off the podium, because the Orcs were the previous, for the previous 2 months, Orcs were the big bad.
I want to throw in there too that this was I think about the time where World Eaters were, really a bit of a spoiler, meaning that I don't think they were taking down a bunch of events, but they were definitely like you had to test yourself against the aggressiveness of the World Eaters in the later rounds of the events, and so I think they were everywhere, ready to break through.
But still, Orcs do extremely well here. 2 Orcs making the top 10. 2 Tyranids as well. Tyranids just seem like the perennial, I don't want to say gatekeeper, but much to the same effect as the spoilers of the World Eaters. They were a spoiler in kind of a different way. Like if you World Eaters was just like, oh, we can just beat anybody on a given day. We roll enough 4+ fights on death, or Angron gets up for the 2nd or 3rd time. We can beat any army in the game. And this was very similar, but much more of a control-based strategy. Like if you just went 2nd versus Nids and they had 30 gargoyles, you might just lose by 10 points, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, going second against a lot of Tyranid lists is rough. And that's the thing, too. Nids they always have been good. I
Mm.
don't think they need a faction specialist per se to really do well, but boy, does it help.
Boy, it does help.
They,
It
they
does
needed
help.
the models right now. It was like the
Yeah.
hardest thing about being the Tyranid player was having the right biomorphs.
Yeah, well, I know so many of my mates, they had like 1 or 2 Maliceptors, they had 1 or 2 Exocrines, they had like 1 Tyrannofex, and throughout just this year of 10th edition, they've had to go to, I need an unending swarm, I need to be able to do synaptic, I need to be able to do back to invasion fleet. Like they've actually had to have like a 8,000 point collection to play the best stuff in Tyranids into each evolving meta of the last 12 months. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And good spot in chat here talking about. Don't forget about the Green Tide. That was also talking about going back
Correct.
to the Orcs. There was a lot of play there. Next event we're going to be talking about is the Sheffield Super Major, Sheffield, England, happened in July. We'll probably talk about some of these events coming up in this year too. So we're curious to track those year over year. About 202 players, 7-round event.
Faction podium there being Tyranids and Astartes at 13, Necrons and Orcs at 12, World Eaters, Blood Angels, and Dark Angels at 11. The top 10 performers, 3 Blood Angels, 2 Necrons, a Tau, a Sister, a Dark Angel, a CSM, and an AdMech, with the actual podium being Necrons winning it, AdMech in second, and then CSM in third.
First time AdMech shows up on a podium this year in a large major, in like a big 200 player plus major. It really is, mate. It really is. And unlike Tyranids, I do believe you need to be a faction specialist on AdMech. Yeah,
100%. To like podium. To podium.
Yeah, to podium. I think you need to be like, this is all I play at the moment. I'm putting in 3 months, 6 months of pure AdMech reps, and then you can get this kind of performance, which is really well done in that meta. In like Blood Angels, Tyranids, like vanilla. There are so many Space Marines on this podium. Astartes with regular Astartes with 13, Blood Angels and Dark Angels both with 11 out of 200 players. That's literally a quarter of the armies at the event. 22? Yeah, 22 plus 13. It's almost a freaking quarter of the event was like brutal AdMech killing potency.
Talking just briefly about AdMech is like, they have an extremely wide model range with a bunch of units to choose from. And, if the general sleeves up the exact right configuration of models, you do feel like you're being overwhelmed. Like, oh my goodness, you could do that. That does what? That does what? But then sometimes they find themselves with the complete wrong guns or complete wrong buffs. That's what it seems like. Just look it out. So I think you're dead on with that faction specialist of being able to keenly read the meta and then also deploy the right things at the right time on the tabletop in their army list. It's a high skilled army from what it seems like still.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's an interesting disparity here with Chaos Space Marines being in the faction podium in July in Lone Star in the United States, but not being on the faction podium here in Sheffield. In fact, they only had 1 in representation in the top 10, and of course that wasn't on the podium. So it's actually interesting because I don't believe they had a nerf in between these 2 events, because I think these events were like within a week of each other. So it's just interesting to see those geographical dynamics.
I know what my award is going to be.
What?
The most improved faction from when they started in 2024 to the end.
Oh,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Nice. I like that.
Next one we're going to talk about is the Leeds Super Major from Leeds, England. That was in August. 224 players. What was on that one?
Is it?
Think so.
Oh, it's not.
Oh no, I left it off. My bad. I left it off because we didn't have the.
Let me just tell you, there were 224 players, 7 rounds. Space Marines, Necrons, and Tyranids were at the top 15. Tau Death Guard 13, Astral Military 12, Dark Angels 11, Orc Sisters, Demons, Custodes, and Grey Knights at 10.
So I left it off because I didn't have the stats for the top 10 and stuff, and I already had another big event for August, so I didn't want to double up. And I just didn't tell you guys about that.
So anyway,
the next one. So look, if you were there, let us know if you won. Let us know in the comments if you won or who won.
Yeah, going strong, boys. My bad.
WTC War Master Singles For Mechelin, Belgium, that's the other event we're talking about in August. 466 players, 8-round event. This Warhammer event, I think, started on Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Leading
Yeah,
up
it
to a
went.
giant team event.
Yeah, correct. And it was so rough for the guys who went the full distance because this is everyone plays 2 days, but then the top cut plays one game on the Thursday and then has to go and start the first round of the team event straight after. So you just go absolute meat grinder. Like you do not get any real rest here. I didn't get a faction breakdown from this because somehow I've lost the dirt sheet, the stat sheet, but I do have the podium and the top 10.
This whole month of August is the quality that everyone comes here for. So just want to let you know we are reporting of this. We love you guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I put this show together in an hour. So come at me. Come at me. All right. I will have words.
But I will say, I'm glad you put this in here because this gets my award for most unlikely. So Black Templar's taking it down here. This is one of those lists that people talked about, like, ooh, that list is strong. But there was like, oh, it's not really strong. It really kind of sucks. And because it's Marines, and they, sometimes they're overrated. But then when you show up and steamroll people with 60, Space Marine bodies consistently for 37,000 games they got played over the course of this week.
Well, you did it right when
earned it.
You go in there with that list, and every other country looks at that list like, I don't know how we deal with this.
Why didn't we?
Why didn't we do this?
So, because this Black Templars player, Olivier, he won the singles, he went undefeated in the teams, and France, the nation he was playing for, won the WTC. So he clean swept this thing. And the important thing to note is that, I agree, this gets the least likely because everyone was so red hot for this list, and it never put up another performance like this again.
Yep.
It never did like this again, which just shows the caliber of the pilot.
And people tried. People tried.
Oh, absolutely. The world over, people tried. But no one was able to do anything similar to what Olivier did, which just is a testament to him and his efforts and Team France.
Yeah, great job there. But I said, as far as like you hear about these lists that exist kind of in the theater of the mind, and sometimes the fact that they can exist influences the meta by itself. But I think this was that absolute perfect storm of amazing play, the right time, the right event, and just a great run. That's absolutely awesome. So that's the award for me.
Well deserved. What was that top 10?
Top 10 was 2 Necrons, an Eldari, a Dark Angel, a CSM, a Tyranid, a Votan, a Blood Angel, a T-Sun, and of course a Black Templar. A lot of these seem to show up in all the top 10s. The Necrons, Eldari, CSM, Tyranids for some reason are always on there too. Votan have actually been showing up on almost all these top 10s as well.
That happens more often from this point on. Like I think we're going to see Votan on there.
For sure.
Yeah.
From this point on.
It's almost so. I don't know what happened to Votan in this, whether they got a little bit of points reduction in the mid-year Minotaur and Field Manual. But you're absolutely right. Votan become a player for the second half of the season. Like they really do.
This is just my theory, but I think that some other things got kind of edged out. Like some of their predators ended up getting a little bit of a blunt, and so they are able to shine with them stacking things and some clever army list design. Also, at one point in time, I think the Jaegers came out.
That's true.
That's true.
That could be it.
The Jaegers did have
giving him another utility piece. If I remember, this happened. Or I don't remember the exact time when it came out,
which is a big deal.
But I did give him some more utility, I think, around this time period or maybe a little before.
Yep,
makes sense.
Next event we're talking about is the London Grand Tournament. This is one of those other above 500 from London, England, or thereabouts. 831 players, 10-round event. What was there?
And the faction podium, to no one's surprise, Necrons at 56, and then Chaos Space Marines at 50, Astral Militarum at 46, Nids, World Eaters, Death Guard, and Sisters now at 45, and Depths and Stardies at 42. The top 5 is just, for most of 2024, if you're looking at these events, it's mostly the same, with a few sprinkled in there, like there's Sisters here, and a little bit of Death Guard. Death Guard actually show up a little bit more than that, but they're pretty similar all through the year. And you're seeing it here first. This is the data that you come for, right?
Yep.
Top
Astral Militarum. So Astra Militarum once again starting to get really going in this meta as well. Sisters starting to drop off from being the top of pretty much the top of the game for about 3 or 4 months since there was a June release. No, sorry, June release for their codex. And so they've not left the top of the game in people's minds, but they haven't brought down the big wins as consistently as we would expect from the best faction people in the collective conscious. So that's to be pointed out as to what Paul always loves to say. The meta from this point onwards, and probably from the previous 2 events as well, the meta just got wide open.
Yeah, for sure. The top 10 here. No, not at all. Top 10 for this one was 2 Astra Militarum, a CSM, an Orc, a Demon, a GSC, an Admech, a Tau, a Necron, and a T-Sun, with the actual podium being Chaos Space Marines taking it down with first, Orcs in second, and T-Suns in third. T-Suns not showing up on too many of these podiums, and this is, I think, their second round of nerfs that they got after this one.
Yep. And so pretty much T-Suns have been nerfed, apart from the last MFM and Slate, have been nerfed pretty much every time you could nerf them.
Every single time.
Since the start of the edition, except for the last one.
Turns out Magic Marines pretty strong.
Yeah. Uninteractive Magic Marines. This was won by Liam VSL, of course, playing a very interesting, innovative list that wielded like oathed obliterators and was really, really cute in what it did. Once again, another list that has not shown popularity in the wider meta and has not shown to put up results in the wider meta, just wielded by an exceptional pilot. And I believe in second place was Brian Sipe as well. He was another absolute phenomenal player. I would like to denote that I've just had a quick scan, and not a single one of these top 10s is perfectly delineated. Everything has at least a double or a triple in every single top 10 of the game, because that was going to be one of the awards I wanted to give out as well, like the most disparate, the most spread, the best spread of the top 10s. Like here's 10 factions in the top 10, but not a single one has got it. But the London GT is equal best with only a single in the over the one.
Orcs taking number 2 spot. It's pretty strong.
Yeah,
very strong.
In that field, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Next event, talking about the Hessianic from Oldenburg, Germany, in October, with 190 players over an 8-round event.
For this one, the faction podium was Astra Militarum and Necrons at 13, Votan and Imperial Knights at 12. That's different. Orcs and Grey Knights at 11, Space Wolves, Tau, and Death Guard at 9, and then World Eaters, Demons, and Sisters at 8.
Ring-a-ding-ding. This one wins my award. This is 12 factions on the podium.
That is
12.
That is a lot.
Technically, the Leeds Super Major had the same 12 factions, but this one has less players than Leeds, so this one wins for me because it's got less possible players to, break up the faction statistics. So yeah, this one is Hanseatic from Oldenburg, Germany. You win the best spread out faction event.
Congratulations, Oldenburg.
Well, your trophy's in the mail. Top 10 for this one is 3 Astra Militarum, 2 Votan, 1 Sisters, 1 T-Suns, 1 Black Templar, 1 Demon, and a CSM, with the actual podium being Votan winning this, Sisters in second, and then Black Templars in third.
Wild. This just harkens back to some geographical nuance as well. For some reason, the Germans are mad for Votan.
They love Votan. They are,
and
yes.
The best Votan players in the world are undeniably from Germany at this point as well.
Votan technological advanced with
Yep. They're efficient.
Cool cars.
Efficient, mate. A Votan coming in first. Sisters actually showing up on the podium for the first time in a while as well. And then Templars coming in third is actually kind of surprising too. But yeah, apart from that, a sweet event.
Loving that. Next one we're going to be talking about is the Raccoon Rumble from Hof, also in Germany, November. This one's from November. 201 players over 6 rounds. Look at that faction podium starting out with 21 Votan.
They paid attention to the last month's event.
They did. I think I can make somebody work with this then. So Votan winning it with a 21. Sorry, not winning it, but the faction podium style. Votan at 21, and then the Cliff of Judgment, as it was declared by Adam. Necrons 15, Death Guard and Astral Military at 14, Chaos Space Marines at 13, and then Chaos Knights at 11. The actual podium being Demons winning it, CSM in second, and then Sisters in third.
So let's talk about that cliff for a second. Is that we often refer to a cliff when there is just a fall off. There's like a dominant faction, the one that everybody's playing by leaps by some giant percentage and above. And we saw a lot of that in like 2023, 2022 type stuff, and not so much here as these things start to kind of be even out where it's, any faction's game. So it is surprising to see that here.
It is.
It talks a lot about the region. Some of the stuff we look for in the data.
One of them was the Golden Cliff because it was Custodes. What was the other one?
Yeah. We had the Silver Cliffs when
Necrons
was just everywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of still is, but we don't call it that anymore because we just got used to it. But yeah, this is a really interesting one. So this is a response to, like the month before, Votan was extremely dominant. The month after, Votan come in as the faction on top of the podium. But in response, they don't make the podium. It's always an interesting thing, especially with demons. And I thought this might be the one that the most unlikely you called as well, Paul. I thought it was either between this one or Olivier and the Black Templars, because this is the only first place that demons got this year in these events, and I'm like, this could be a contender for Paul. But it turns out, I don't know what the list is. I might go back and look it up, but I'm assuming Votan's bad into Bellicor. Votan, what am I going to do?
Things hard to shoot. Things that chop you up when you get close.
Yeah,
could be.
Oh, cool. You're going to get with an 18. That sounds good, mate. I'm going to hit you with some blood crushes. Yeah, and of course, I do believe around November. Of course, we had just had the significant points drops on a lot of the decent units, like I mentioned, the blood crushes for demons as well. So that could definitely be opening things up in their respective. One more event though.
One more
event. This is the World Championships of Warhammer in Atlanta, Georgia, that happened in November. World Championships, of course, were attended by folks that qualified through some of the events we've talked about and other events all around the world between Games Workshop in collaboration with some independent organizers. And of course, also the Games Workshop events themselves. You could win a qualifying spot into this event. Over 30 countries came and competed in the World Championship, second of its kind of Warhammer in November. 228 players over 8 rounds.
Would also like to point out before Dustin jumps in, this was the highest ELO event of the year, according to statistics for those rankings. So technically, this was the strongest singles field in the world.
Here, where people used to winning in their environment, game after game. Here went 3-3.
I love that. Like the one of the main event organizers, the head of the event organizer, he says on the mic, "You guys are going to have to lose. You're not used to it, I know, but some of you are going to lose. Some of you are going to go 1-6, and you're just going to have to cop it sweet." And that's that. Drop the mic, walk off.
But what you're talking about, what an event of competition. Then of course, hobby stuff it was great. But 268 players, I think 34 countries represented.
Yep.
Playing over 8 rounds. What else? What all was there?
For the faction podium, once again, Necrons topping off at 29. Astra Militarum right behind them at 26. A little bit of a drop off to Blood Angels at 17, then Tau at 16, and then Sisters at 15, with the top 10 being 4 Astra Militarum, 2 of which on the top 3 podium. 1 Custode, 1 Adeptus Astartes, 1 Adeptus Mechanicus, 1 Grey Knight, 1 CSM, and a Tyranid. And the podium, as I mentioned, with Astra Militarum in second and third, but Custodes winning it.
This is another one could have taken top spot for most unexpected.
I am just going back and counting how many times Necrons was the top faction in these. What I think, how many slides did I do? Someone tell me.
Less than what I thought. That's for sure.
10. You did 10 slides.
10 slides. 7 of them, as far as my count, with Necrons as the top.
Did you count that one that you didn't make a slide for?
No. Maybe. I don't know.
But this event with the Custodes winning it against Astra Militarum there at the end, was like the two difference of list. A list that could spread out all over the board, had hard-hitting weapons, and then a list that's just good at really taking a punch and seeing, Folger the general that played, just going for it. It's one thing to know what you have to do, but then also had to have the courage to do it, and throw your models out there.
Risk it all in the last round of like one of the most prestigious events in the world.
Do it.
This one is, I think, the only time we've got a top 10 that has almost half the top 10 in a single faction, with 16. So out of the top 16, 6 of them were Astra Militarum, and then 4 of those 6 Astra Militarum got into the top 10. So yeah, wow, it just showed their absolute dominance of the game at that time, but that they were still beatable.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so here's a question for you guys. For most improved faction, are we going by who started showing up on more podiums and having more representation, or who actually got better codex-wise or rules-wise?
I think we've got to go with the stats on the sheet, right?
With the stats
like
on the sheet?
We got to go with the
Then it's Votan.
It's Votan. Yeah, I was pretty sure you were going to say. And yeah, 100%, my man. They went from the start of the edition being like, is my Sagittar good enough to win me this game? Tick box. Or no, or don't tick box.
Can you kill all 6?
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of sisters came out and they were like, lol, we could do that in a turn. Chaos Space Marines came out like, we'll kill 4 and then we'll take all the objectives and then we'll leave and do it again next turn with our Warp Talons. And so, yeah, they absolutely could. But then, dude, the Jaegers, a couple of points drops and the meta evolving, they just got so much agency back.
Yep.
What a year. I mean, what a year of Warhammer. I mean, look, we talked about events here with, hundreds and hundreds of players. That means the tournament scene is alive and well, thriving and only getting better. There's a lot of involvement, from Games Workshop with the game, keeping it so to where if there's a faction you like, you can probably go out there and play it and get your name up in lights here for us to talk about it.
Yep.
I'm really excited for what 2025 holds. We are coming to the end of the ITC, the International Tournament Circuit. I believe that's what it stands for. And
it does.
That's it.
Well, somebody's going to be crowned all the best ofs in this, and it's going to be fun coming to the LVO. Of course, we're going to be talking about that event coming up pretty soon. So keep your eyes
100%.
peeled, and we're going to be back to normal this year, back to coming to you each and every week. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening to us on the podcast aggregators, give us those 5-star reviews. The comments, I think you can leave comments on Spotify now too, but comments and engagement, that's the kind of stuff that really helps other people learn about the show that haven't heard about it yet. So please do that if you have not done so already. And if you do have it, the time to come and listen to us or hang out with us and with the wonderful chat community that we've got, 9 p.m. Eastern time each and every Thursday. We do this for, about an hour or so.
And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one as well. Like I said, it wasn't as polished as I would have liked. And hopefully, but if you did like it, we'll do it every year. Straight up.
And we normally do something real silly here at the end of the show as a bit of a palate cleanser, but I think we'll kick that off next week. The silliness.
That might be an exclusive part 2 for this week, because naturally we can't really look back on looking back. But we will definitely, in part 2 for this week, we'll look back on the events that did happen this week that we weren't able to cover on the main show. In addition, we'll strap our Fuego over there so you guys can enjoy that goodness.
Well, so we didn't really have, I guess, a thank y'all for the great year episode, but thank y'all for the great year listening and hanging out with us and being a part of this show with us, helping us with stats, being active in the chat, doing all the engagement like we were requested and stuff. Like it means a whole lot. Like and Adam, Dustin, I love coming in here and talking to y'all every week about the crunchiness that is competitive Warhammer 40,000.
Dude, if 2024 is anything to go by, 2025 is going to be a legendary year for the game.
That's going to be amazing. I mean, I love doing this every week with you guys, and the chat enjoying what we do just makes it so much better, too. We love that you guys are interacting with us every week, that you listen to us afterwards as well. We appreciate all the support, and we hope to make 2025 another great year.
Here we go. Can't wait. Kicking this off with a bang. We'll see y'all next week, everybody. Have a great night.
See you.
Boy.